Hey everybody, thanks for dropping in today. We'd like to go over a few tips and tricks that we found helpful when first onboarding to Teams. For those who are new to Teams, Teams is really a newish product launched by Microsoft back in 2017, but it's really gaining in popularity more so recently. Teams is considered to be a chat-based workspace, not just a replacement for Skype. So it has features like group messaging, video and voice calls, and then there's a plethora of apps, connectors, and bots that are really designed to kind of increase team productivity. Diving into some of our tips and tricks for today, we're going to start first in conversations. You'll notice if you start a new conversation here, if I click this little editor button, my chat box turns into a rich text editor, and there's a lot of things that I can do here, but it really allows me the ability to modify various parts of my text. It can really be especially helpful when creating announcements. You'll see my announcement up here has all kinds of stuff. I close my editor that I can see here. So I have the ability to create quotes, headings, highlighting things. But in addition to being able to modify your text, it also gives you the ability to restrict reply permissions. So here I can say everybody can reply, or only myself and the moderators can reply. So if, for example, I just want to post an announcement and I don't want to start a conversation, I can just restrict those permissions. The other thing that I can do is I can post in multiple channels. This really gives me the ability for, if, for example, I had a company-wide announcement, I can send that to every channel using just this one chat box. I don't have to create multiple texts in multiple channels. Another tip while we're here in conversations is really just to make sure that you're replying, not starting a new conversation when responding to a thread. So here, if I were to start a new conversation, what happens is that I just start a new thread here rather than responding to my conversation thread up here. So what happens is it makes people kind of end up losing the conversation in this general mix of conversation threads. So always make sure you're replying here rather than starting a new conversation. You can also forward emails to Teams. I find that to be particularly helpful, which I'll go over in just a second. But to get the email address, what you do is you just kind of go over here and click Get Email Address. And then that's going to pop this up here. And off in another window, I'm going to go ahead and send that off. And we'll give that a minute to show up here. Hopefully it does. But I find this to be particularly helpful as a project manager. I often need to consult with my development team before responding to emails about a project. With this, we can keep the conversation going without clogging up my inbox. I'm sure everybody can relate to the 65 emails replying back and forth about about an email. We can take that out of our Outlook into Teams, have that conversation back in here, all bucketed into one little conversation thread, and then I can go back and reply externally. I find that to be super helpful. The last one here is you can actually invite an entire channel to a meeting invite. So another thing that I often have as a project manager is when I'm on large teams, I'm often trying to keep track in my head to make sure that I invited everybody, if I have everybody on the team that needs to attend a meeting. Something that can be particularly helpful is you can just invite an entire group. So if you're over here in your calendar, and we click New Meeting, over here there's this little Select a Channel to Meet in, and then you can just click this and click General, And you can book a conference room, put your title, put all of your information in here and schedule this. And what that does is it actually books the meeting for the channel, not just for individual people. And everybody who's in the channel will get that invite. So that's really it for today. I hope you found at least a couple of these little tips and tricks helpful as you start navigating Teams. Just a couple of reminders: make sure you reply versus starting a thread. Use that rich text editor when appropriate, because it can be super helpful to making sure that you're calling out important things for folks. And of course, you can always forward emails to a channel in case you need to have that conversation offline before responding externally. So thanks for joining. This is our first of hopefully many vlogs going through some of our tips and tricks